Welcome back to another episode of the Waffle Press TV Hangouts. I am your faceless host, Diego Crespo. With me again, after a very long time, is Emily Sophia. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's good to be back in TV land. I think we've both kind of departed from it in ways for a while. So here we are with a couple really big shows to talk about, and it's good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I think these might be, like barring Game of Thrones, because that one just is like the show on television right now. These are the two biggest summer shows we're going to talk about today. I mean, that's a heck of a way to get back into it. We're talking Preacher and Stranger Things. First, we are going to talk about Preacher, though, the Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg adaptation of Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon's original comic book series. This was a highly anticipated show for a number of reasons. Emily, what are your thoughts on Preacher's first season?
Yes, so it was a sometimes disjointed and crazy little thrill ride of a show. I think we're at an interesting point now, having finished the first season, the first 10 episodes, where I already know, and pretty much anyone else who has seen the show already knows, that the second season is going to be fundamentally different from the first on every conceivable level. Because basically what this first season was a preamble or a prequel to the events of the comics and the events that are going to just take the rest of the story forward. Now, I guess I would say that I feel that perhaps a 10-episode first season did not serve this prequel story too well at times, just because eventually a lot of wheel spinning started to occur, which seems bizarre considering the really fascinating, crazy cast of characters that we had and situations that were utterly outlandish throughout the entire season. I just feel that perhaps they could have maybe told this story that they were looking to tell in like 6 episodes instead of 10. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. But I will say that I super love what I call the unholy trinity of Jesse Custer, Tulip O'Hare, and Cassidy, and the actors portraying them are truly phenomenal, and I think made the show, even at its worst moments, and truly I enjoyed the season, but they really made it worthwhile and fun, even where the story kind of lagged and where you're kind of waiting for what is the next big step. When is Jesse going to realize what his true mission is in life? When is Tulip going to get what she wants with this ambiguous guy named Carlos? And once she exacts her revenge on him, hopefully with Jesse, what's that going to mean for her? And so we have all of these questions, all of these things that are building up and building up. But the performances were great. The season was pretty much consistently entertaining and had a really oddball assortment of other supporting characters, like Emily, who is played by Lucy Griffiths. She was a very fun and surprising character who had some major twists toward the end. We also had Eugene, or Arseface, Ian Coletti, and Jackie Earle Haley as Odin Quincannon, or Kincannon, I believe it is. And they were just an absolute riot. Watching this show by myself made me feel like I was going insane, because I kept turning to this non-existent person to be like, are you seeing what I'm seeing right now? Are you seeing this shit? That happened to me so many times. And actually I had I was watching the finale at my family's house, and my brother walked in a couple of times and was like, what the hell are you watching? For reasons that I'm sure you can understand.
Oh yeah.
We can get into the spoileriness of it, but I figured I would, do this kind of broad overview. it's a crazy ride, sometimes a disjointed and confusing one at that, but the place where it leaves us is one that is going to be potentially so much fun and so crazy, and we're just basically at the tip of the iceberg, and it's exciting to know that there's a whole world ahead of our characters now that certain events have ensued. But I had being a Christian actually myself, it was really hilarious to watch this show and its portrayal of religion, and how sometimes it had these really sincere moments that totally resonate, and then sometimes it completely subverts every religious trope under the sun. And I love that, and I had a really good time with it and didn't really have any qualms about it. It was highly entertaining, and I look forward to seeing what we get to learn about the god of this story and heaven and hell. It's big, heady concepts, but the show does some very innovative and subversive things with it that I got a kick out of. So that's kind of my spoiler-free piece, and yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts, and we can pretty much expand on anything you want.
I also want to give a quick shout out to Sam Catlin. Sam Catlin? Yeah, he also developed it alongside Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, and he worked on Breaking Bad, so yes. I feel like I should not leave that one out.
Yes. And he did the finale episode. I believe he wrote and directed it, if I'm not mistaken.
And I would argue he did the best job of the season, because that was a heck of a
tall order.
Yeah, that was, talk about game changers. I had a couple quibbles with the show. I think we're totally on the same page, where this season didn't need to be 10 episodes. I liked it. I never was bored or didn't like it. I just questioned where was this all going, and then it kind of like reveals itself as it goes along. Like for me, because I read some of the comic, I was like, oh, okay, they're doing their own thing, but it's also sort of a prequel. It's like a book zero, and then also doing their own thing alongside it. So next season won't be an adaptation of the first volume completely, but it will be an adaptation mixed in with the changes that we've seen thus far. So cool. Yeah. So I liked the payoff. Felt good. The payoff was great, and everything
needed to happen.
It absolutely did need to, and everything came together wonderfully. The Jackie Earle Haley is nuts. He is just the best. This guy never gets enough credit for acting his butt off. Even that Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, it's whatever. I don't like it, but he's so good in it. I don't even like Watchmen. I know a lot of people like it, but he's so good in that movie. This, as someone who read a little bit of the comic, I like that the show kind of it eases up a little bit on the ugliness. I thought the comic strayed too hard into the nastiness of things, like a little Mark Millar. I'm not a Mark Millar fan, so that's not a compliment. So I like that it's there, and this show is just as weird as the comic. But it took a little while to get there to reveal its weirdness, I think, It was always odd from the get-go, like off kilter, but it was never like upfront, oh yeah, here is how fucking weird we're going to get with this series, and all these disparate elements we're going to throw together in a pot for some weird existential study of religion and action adventure. So, I wasn't really ready for that, even though I had known that's what the comic was like.
Right.
Before we get into full spoilers, I'll toss it off to you right now, but I really like that Seth Rogen, I guess, has this sort of like, he's picking his projects very carefully. Like, he's able to do whatever he wants because he's one of the modern kings of comedy, I think, like producer, writer, actor, creator, whatever. He can pretty much do whatever he wants right now. And he's a Sausage Party is like coming out soon, and then that's like a weird religious parable about like, oh, it's heaven's not all it turns out to be, I guess, kind of deal. Like, the food wants to be like to ascend, and then it's like, oh no, you just die. Like there's nothing else, you just die, and that's like really dark. No one's really addressed how dark that is. And then Preacher is kind of like that. So I just thought that was it's really interesting that he's choosing these projects that act this sort of way, and he's that's a creative dude. No one's really, props to Seth Rogen for not sticking in his comfort zone.
Yeah, this was easily, I think, one of the more ambitious projects that he's done. It's pretty far out there on his comedic spectrum, very much in the dark humor realm. I think that finale is probably one of the darkest and most hilarious things simultaneously that I have witnessed on TV before. But I was quite impressed with that and with Seth Rogen's work in general. It is very cool of him to be taking on something like this, and they get a second season too. So hopefully it's just the beginning.
Yeah, I guess let's just go right into the character stuff, because I love Dominic Cooper. I didn't really realize it until recently that he's one of my favorite character actors right now. This guy, he could just go into like any performance, maybe except Warcraft. I liked Warcraft a lot for some reason, but I didn't buy him there entirely.
Right.
But he, for the most part, he just fits into any little mold. He's like an actual chameleon, like he can just do whatever and you'll believe it. Because this is totally different from something like Agent Carter, where he's Howard Stark. I like Joseph Gilgun a lot. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Did you ever watch Misfits?
I didn't. I knew kind of about it because once upon a time I followed people on Tumblr who watched that show, so I've seen things from it, but I never actually got to watch the show itself.
Yeah, that's how I got into it. I was like, oh, this Tumblr show, what is this? And I watched it, and I was like, this is like
Tumblr and Misfits.
It was like skin, or it was just like a perfect little diorama for millennials to like look at. And he was great. So as soon as whenever I hear his cast in anything, like even if it's just like a minor role, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy was great in Misfits. I've never seen him in anything else, but whenever he pops up in like the smallest little roles, it's cool. And yeah, he kills it here. He's so good.
He's hysterical.
Yeah. It's like I don't think he's ever played a character that's vastly different from his Misfits persona, because it's just like the same dude in like everything, but he's just so good at it. And then Ruth Negga as Tulip is awesome and badass.
So good.
And just the best. Oh my god, she is the best. She's my favorite character. Yes, the best. That's all I got. Just the best.
Yep. I would agree with you there. I would definitely say that she's my favorite, with Cassidy being a close second. But she kills it. And I think that she probably gets one of the craziest character introductions that you will see on TV.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It comes out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, she's an anvil doing the things she does. But man, what a badass.
Yeah. And I never would have picked any of these characters. Like, if I was working behind the scenes in the show and be like, okay, who do you want to cast as Jesse, as Cassidy, as Tulip? I'd be like, none of these people. Not because I don't think they're capable, just because I never would have pictured it. And then they just fit so nicely into these roles. Like, I can't imagine anybody else now, Yeah,
and I think that the only other work that I've seen Ruth Negga do was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., honestly. That was actually the first place where I had seen her act. And I think that she does a way better job in this kind of like loose cannon role, as opposed to sort of the semi-femme fatale character that she had going on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., although that character took some really interesting and dark turns later on. But I really think that this show is going to be a place where she can flourish and grow. in really big ways. So I'm super stoked for her, and she has some pretty big films coming down the pipeline too. So yeah.
Yeah,
Good
she was
stuff for her.
also in Misfits.
Yeah. I remember that now, but again, never having seen the show, that stuff, it doesn't immediately come to mind.
Yeah, of course. And World War Z, the movie that I thought I was gonna hate, and I was like, that one's so bad. Yeah, that's it. I like that. The Unholy Trio, Unholy Trinity.
Yes.
That's fantastic. That's perfect for them.
Yes, that is my official nickname. You can use it as well. I just think it's perfect for them.
I also liked W. Earl Brown as the sheriff. Yeah. Okay, he's a lot nicer in this, I think, than he is in the comic.
Really?
Arseface. Yeah. Their dynamic is much more gentle, I guess. More likable. So, I'm not completely like repulsed.
Tortured soul. It all, that's kind of how he comes across in the show. Even though he has these moments of being really ruthless and cruel towards his son, ultimately he kind of gives up a lot for him and for the pursuit of him. Although it's hard to say what ultimately comes of that. Still a pretty interesting guy.
Even though the entire season as a whole doesn't really come together until like the end of it all, like it's kind of start and stop, I guess. The characters are strong enough that I didn't mind it too much. I like spending time with these characters. They've all got their own interesting little facets in the corners of this universe, and let's just get right into the finale, because we didn't really break down the season as a whole, but that's okay, because I don't know if there's actually that much to break down as a whole until the end anyways.
Yeah, because it does. I mean, do you agree that it kind of starts to feel repetitive after a while? Like certain characters are stuck doing certain kinds of things up until sort of the last few episodes, because that's sort of how it felt to me.
Yeah.
With like Jesse is just staunchly putting his foot down and saying, I'm going to be the preacher. I'm going to do what I promised my dad. I'm going to do this thing. And then Tulip is trying to convince him to run away with her and to take out Carlos and to do all these things. And so they're all kind of like chasing each other around the mulberry bush for a while. But then, Eugene gets sent to hell, and like, are we in spoilers?
Oh yeah, go crazy.
No. But yeah, like there are consistently interesting things that happen throughout, but I think that the finale kind of puts everything into perspective finally, and moves everything forward in a time span that I think could have maybe taken them only 6 episodes or so, but I'm not necessarily worried about pacing being an issue in the future now that we are done with Anvil. So I think that was what I was going to say.
Well, I will say by the time the finale rolls around, it's definitely it's a nice breather. Like it reminded me of The Last Man on Earth first season.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but then towards the middle, it was like, all right, we're not really going anywhere, are we? And then by the end of it all, it's like, okay, now we are literally going somewhere, because it ends with the protagonists driving off away from the location where they had spent the entire first season.
Yep.
So maybe that's just the new trend for apocalyptic shows. The Walking Dead ends the same way the first season. So I don't know. I mean, Preacher's not really apocalyptic. I don't know. It just kind of feels apocalyptic to me.
It does.
Yeah, that's a really cool vibe that they got. I guess that's also something I really liked, is that they're really good at capturing a moody atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it gives it its own distinct flavor, especially when you got a network that's like formerly known for Breaking Bad and Mad Men.
Right.
So that's important that you capture your own voice in a landscape like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know really how much else I have to say. I mean, I was really impressed by the end of it, worried in the middle, and interested in the beginning.
Yeah.
I guess if I was to sum up my thoughts.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it was pretty much the same progression for me. I started off really enthusiastic about it and really into it. After a while, it was kind of something that I was enjoying on a regular basis, but with kind of being stuck in the small town setting of Anvil, and there not being a ton to do for certain characters, it did kind of start to stagnate a little bit. And even though it felt like there were these huge stakes and huge things going on in the background, we didn't necessarily fully grasp what they were or how certain things connected or where it was headed. We were just kind of awash, drifting a little bit for a while. But by the end, of course, slate is wiped clean.
Oh yeah, literally.
Yeah, that was insanely dark, but I knew pretty much from the get-go that Anvil had it coming. It almost feels like this kind of dystopia, not like a dystopian future, but just a dystopian society.
Yeah, like a dystopian now.
Yes, yeah. And it was really interesting getting to meet like the fake god by the end. That was pretty surreal, comical. I was laughing my ass off by that point, just with like Tulip and Cassidy's commentary on the whole thing. And how they ultimately get to the truth of matters with God being missing and all of that. I knew from about the midway point, I'd heard about some stuff from the comics, and I knew that they were going to end up going on a road trip to find God. And I didn't know necessarily what that meant, but now knowing that no one knows where he is, that makes things super interesting and unpredictable, at least for me, the non-comic reader. But yeah, I also, what did you think about the stuff with the cowboy, or the Saint of Killers, I think he's known as?
This guy is nuts in the comic.
Yeah.
I had completely forgotten about him until he popped up in the show, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a character." And there's a lot of nutso stuff that happens with him, and
Okay.
I don't want to give anything away, but
Sure.
Graham McTavish is another wonderful character actor that I'm a big fan of, and again, would have picked him to play this role, but then he's just so good that now I can't imagine anybody else.
There you go.
Yeah, he's basically like Boba Fett in religious context. Yeah. So yeah, I love it. It's just like this ominous gunslinging religious symbol. It's great. It's great. It's so weird. You don't see a lot of shows this weird. I mean, Game of Thrones isn't even that weird anymore. Like everyone, like dragons, ice zombies, whatever. Like it's great.
Totally normalized, and this stuff is still pretty fucking taboo.
Yeah, it just goes for it, and even though it didn't all come together again till the end, the fact that they're like just putting themselves out there, I admire its ambition a whole lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Even when the story was spinning its wheels, there was always something that had my jaw dropping episode to episode, and I wanted to just scream to the heavens about it. But I haven't known a ton of people who have been watching the show, so I'm hoping that by the second season there will be enough momentum built up that there's a bigger audience base and things can just grow in every possible way, because I think that they have expressed their potential for that. And again, keeping in mind that this is the prequel, I think that there's going to be there's so much opportunity for them to flex their creative muscles with this. They've already shown that, so I'm super excited for what's to come and super in love with this cast. Now, I should ask, do you think that there's any remote possibility that somebody from Anvil survived, or What are your thoughts on that? Spoiler free if you can.
I think. Shoot. I think someone has to have,
Yeah.
because I feel like some stuff just doesn't feel closed off enough. You know,
Mhm.
like it's a big shock to the system. But who do we know that survived? Like obviously the unholy trinity, and
Yeah.
then
Um,
I forgot because I haven't seen the finale since it aired. Um,
yeah, I think we don't really see the only people that we see come out of the explosion is like the Seraphim, of course, who gets shot by the Saint of Killers. I don't really know that we see anyone else, like any familiar face, walk away. Um,
hmm.
it's just a giant mushroom cloud, and and that's about it. So I'd like to think that a character like I actually really enjoyed the character of Emily. I know that some people kind of felt that she was bland or sort of a vanilla character, but by the end, she did some pretty insane stuff. So I feel like it would be fun for her to crop up again, or even Kincannon. That would be fun too. At the same time, if they just want to move forward and the past is in the past, I think I'm pretty much down with that. But it would still be fun to get somebody else in the
Yeah.
mix. And of course, Eugene is still in hell, so he's
Yeah.
just hanging
So
out.
he's just hanging out. Exactly. Yeah, I think Emily. I don't see how they could get rid of her or the
Yeah,
sheriff just yet.
right.
I think they're still alive.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone else is up for the taking, so to
Yeah.
speak. I don't think anybody else made it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Those are my predictions for the survivors of Anvil.
Yeah, I think I would agree with those too, because it would be really interesting to see Sheriff Root come back too, especially as stuff is still getting worked out with his son, being in the underworld and all that good jazz.
Yeah, just casual cliffhangers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
what have yous. Any other final thoughts on Preacher?
I think that's about it. It's a strong, bold, freaky start, and I love it. It's not really like anything else that I watch anywhere, so count me in for season 2.
I agree. And on that note, we're going to dive straight into Stranger Things on Netflix. A very wonderful throwback, nostalgic, or appropriately nostalgic, because I think a
Yes.
lot of movies and TV shows really want that nostalgia vibe without earning it at all.
Mhm.
And Stranger Things, holy crap, this is a show. I'm not going to lie, it took me an episode or two to really fall in love with it. Like, I liked it,
Mhm.
but I didn't really get it, you know?
Sure.
But recently I've been reading more Stephen King to prepare for The Dark Tower, and I think that helped a lot.
Mm.
Like, a lot. And,
Yeah.
I started getting the little, like, obviously there's a Steven Spielbergian type vibe to the whole story from the get-go, and then it starts twisting itself a little bit, and it becomes more Stephen King and John Carpenter, and it's just so wonderful because I love all three of those people and all of their stories. Well, a lot of their stories, I should say. I don't love all of them.
Mhm.
So what we have is a story about 4 kids, or I guess 5 kids technically, because one of them's missing the entire. Spoilers, I guess, by the way. And what it's like to grow up in a little town with a big monster, but they don't know it's there yet. And then the adult side has this giant government conspiracy angle, and then the teenager side has more Stephen Kinginess. So it's like you got all these 3 different levels. So I guess the kid stuff is the Spielberg stuff, and then the teenager
Mhm.
stuff is the Stephen King, and then the adults are like the John Carpenter type stuff. And then
Yeah.
it all blends together in wonderful, intricate ways, tears your heart apart, puts it back together, makes it sad again. Uh, this is one of the best Netflix shows. It feels like every time a Netflix show comes out, it's like, no, this one's
It's
one of
the
the
best.
best. This one's the best. So I don't think this one's the best. I think I still prefer Jessica Jones and Master of None, but this one's it's just great. Like I'm sort of rewatching it on and off again already, just because it's only 8 episodes too, and they're not that long. I don't think. I mean, I think they're all hours long, but
Yeah.
you know, they fly by because the quality is just that good. Yeah, I love this show. It's so 80s and so it's just really well structured and handling like these nostalgic overtones, and it's not just like, hey, remember how cool this thing was? It's like, hey, remember how cool this thing was, but also here's a story that we are telling, and this is how that fits into our story. So it's not just a throwaway reminder of better times. Like, it's still pushing forward its own story and narrative, and that feels really refreshing to have a show that's willing to do that, or anything that's really willing to do that while dealing with concepts and stories that we're sort of familiar with through other storytellers. So yeah, I loved Stranger Things.
Yes, as did I. It is such a special gem of a show, and I think, you know, as is normally the hallmark of a good series, it has an incredible cast of characters, even child characters, which can be really tough to jive with in certain contexts, you know, whether it's like video game child characters or movie child characters. You often get these kids that are just not written properly or feel like dumbed down adults, but these kids feel like actual kids, or like your actual friends from the days of your youth, you know. When I first saw the trailer for this show, I wasn't ambivalent per se, but I was just kind of curious as to who the show was really being marketed towards. I actually thought that maybe it was for a younger crowd. And then all of a sudden, everyone in my social media feed was like, Stranger Things is the way to go. And so I realized, like, okay, clearly there's a way broader appeal than I even noticed when I first heard about the show. And that was pretty much just what I was waiting to hear. But everyone from the Band of Boys, with Mike Wheeler and Dustin and Lucas, I think their names are, they're absolutely fantastic. I'm actually very good friends with some super D&D nerds as well, so all the Dungeons and Dragons references were quite welcome there. And it was fun to see how the show it started off with and then ended with this fictional adventure in their D&D campaign, and then the way that they kind of applied their knowledge and skills and things from this fantasy game to trying to take down this monster in the Upside Down, the Demogorgon or whatever it was really cool and really well crafted. And I think that they did a super good job of binding together the narrative of the kids looking for their friend, the teenagers getting caught up in the midst of it, and then of course the adults in dealing with the conspiracy and the pain of loss. And there's some big heavy hitting stuff, especially with Joyce Byers and Jim Hopper, who are kind of the two adult stars. I love Jim Hopper. He might be my favorite character, just because he's just this world-weary bastard who ends up like doing the right thing and giving up so much to actually do it. And then as you figure out that he's much like Joyce Byers, and that he's also lost a child, and these undercurrents of tragedy that's going on in both of their lives, it makes it really cool when the two of them ultimately team up together to go to this alternate dimension to save her son. It's powerful freaking stuff. Like, I get emotional just thinking about it. But yeah, that being said, Joyce Byers with Winona Ryder was impeccable. That was glorious casting. I think she was wonderful, and I said this before on Twitter a while back, but she reminds me so much of Vera Farmiga as Norma Bates in Bates Motel, just in terms of being this incredibly intense and passionate, high-strung character who is consistent.
It's great. It's really fucking great. Winona Ryder, I think, will be nominated for an Emmy.
She better
If
be.
she doesn't, well, you know what? They're just wrong again.
It's wrong. It's wrong.
They're just wrong. Yeah. She
Get the
like
Netflix Emmys.
give
Kristen
her own-
Ritter, Winona Ryder.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not getting nominated in the real Emmys, just give them their own. You know, they deserve it.
Mhm.
She pretty much had me choking up half the time she was on screen. She's so good. I think she might be my favorite character. I'm not sure. I like all these guys a lot. And Good Note are so good in this show too. Like, it's really hard to find good kid actors. I think the only people that can do it are like J.J. Abrams and like Super 8 and the Game of Thrones cast. Like, that's really it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably like little examples here and there, but for the most part, yeah, kid actors are hard to find. That's fine. You know, you're a kid. You don't have that many experiences to draw from. So the fact that these kids are this good is really exciting. As the show goes on, I hope that they, because I think the plan is second season. They just haven't announced it yet, and that
Right.
I mean, I don't know how you don't. This thing like blew up social media like as soon as it came out. I didn't even start watching it until like the weekend after, because I was like, I don't need another show in my life. I'm so busy this summer. And then I started watching it, and I was just like, fuck, I have to finish this. It's so good. Yeah. I guess the plan is that they are going to continue this story with these characters, and it will be like a sequel, like not just a season. I don't know how they differentiate that. They were very clear, like, no, we see it as like a sequel to a movie with these characters. I'm like, so another season, right? Because that's happens. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe they're trying to say that like they have a very explicit purpose with what they want to do, and some shows can kind of just be like, oh, we have another season, let's do all this random crap. And yeah, maybe they're just trying to drive that home, but it, it does seem like kind of a weird distinction.
Maybe it'll be like they'll give the next season a subtitle or something, and so it'll be about the characters, but they'll have like a different thing. Like, I don't want them to bring back the monster. I mean, full spoilers now, obviously.
Yes.
I don't want them to bring back the monster. I want them to do something else.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I actually think the monster was kind of not great looking. I mean, they probably had like a very small budget, so I'm not going to harp on that. But I don't think the monster looked great. The design's cool, but you know, just effects wise, like the best it ever looked was in the finale because they had the lights flicker on and off during the final confrontation. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, now I buy it, but you know, so I'm not gonna.
Don't look too closely; you'll ruin the illusion.
Yeah, pretty much, and I can roll with that. That's fine. I mean, old movies do that all the time. It's like, yeah, they don't look great, but it's such good storytelling and filmmaking that it's okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what else they could do, because in the finale, so much has gone down. So much has changed for these characters' lives. They save Will from the Upside Down.
Yep.
And he vomits out one of those weird slug things and then goes to the Upside Down for like a brief second. Like, that's weird. But here's the thing also. If there was no other season, I think this would be a perfectly contained Stephen King type story, you know? Because there's just enough closed off where it's satisfying, but then it's always like, oh, look at all these stranger things that are still happening, you know? Like, whoa. Like, is 11 alive? I'm assuming 11's alive because Hopper's leaving the little Eggos for her. Or maybe he's just hopeful that she's alive, you know?
Right. It seems like she's probably still out there.
Yeah.
Things.
I love the music in this show, too.
Yes.
Total retro synth wave. Oh, it's awesome. My God, this stuff is like my life.
Yes, yes. I'm so excited for the official release of the soundtrack. It was just, that theme song was incredible. It just got me in the zone every single time. You know, it had that like Game of Thrones level of just fittingness. It was kind of brooding and mysterious, but upbeat, you know, so you kind of bob your head to it. You're like, yeah, it's time to get all spooky. That's how it made me feel.
Yeah, no, it's again, it's not just, it doesn't just work because it's a throwback, because that only so I'm still, my head's still spinning over the, let's talk some theories, I guess, then. So Jim Hopper's totally working for the government, right? Like by the end of the season. I don't mean like the whole season. Like when those two guys walk up to him at the hospital, and then he just takes off his hat and walks into the car. I'm like, oh, okay, he's gonna die. But no, he's back at the police station on Christmas. And yeah, like are they gonna like X-Files his storyline next season or something? You know?
Who knows, man? I wasn't even thinking in that direction, but now you got me going there. Because I mean, it's that conspiracy stuff. So you could,
because
totally
they get
be
the
enmeshed in that.
Yeah, the adults get the John Carpenter type stuff. So I'm thinking like, this is just me spitballing, and I have no context for this whatsoever. That organization at the power plant all season long that just got demolished by the monster in the finale. Yeah. They're all dead pretty much now, I guess. They were not supposed to be doing what they were doing, and so now that they have no like division in that region, they're like, hey, guy, you almost single-handedly took down this organization that is a sub-branch of ours. Standalone little monsters, you know? I mean, given that the budgetary reasons are stories, whatever, you know, because I pretty much trust these guys implicitly with my life. The Duffer Brothers, I believe, are.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see like classic movie monsters pop up, like werewolves, or maybe I'm just totally going the wrong direction, but you know, I like werewolves. So.
Yeah, it would be cool if they had a whole just assortment of monsters and creatures that come into this world. And I also like Jim Hopper possibly getting recruited by the government to do stuff. It's like we know that that now he knows so much that he's either going to be their adversary or their ally, you know. So as to what's going to come of what he knows, I guess we'll see. But I'd be totally down to see all different types of spooky creatures as well, providing that, I mean, I feel like they would probably get a much bigger budget for the second season, judging by how well they did with this one. I think it was pretty much like the most streamed show for almost several weeks on end. So the people have spoken, you know. Give them some money so they can make pretty and terrifying things for us.
Give us more strange things.
Yes. All the strangeness.
I also want to talk about Eleven. I love her. I wish she was my daughter. Like, if my daughter is not as cool as Eleven, I'm like, well, I don't need kids. I'm gonna leave them to adopt, you know. Yep,
she is rivaling some of my favorite female child characters in fiction in general. I know that I have loved the character Clementine from Telltale's The Walking Dead game, but I think 11 she might need to step aside, you know. 11's stepping on up. She's pretty dope. Yeah. And just seeing how she had to try to communicate without fully being able to use her words, or only using a few words, but each time doing so in a way that was really poignant and meaningful was just super impressive. So suffice it to say, I would love to see her return in some capacity, and I love the signature look that she kind of carried once she had the dress and the jacket and all that stuff. Like, I think it's immediately iconic for her character. So that was super cool.
Oh yeah, that's the Halloween costume.
Look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I also really liked the three-way eventual friendship of Nancy and Jonathan, and I forget the other kid's name.
It was Nancy, Jonathan, Steve. Oh yeah,
Steve.
Steve Harrington. That horrible name.
Yeah, like God, he just sounds like a douchebag.
So pretentious.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, I want to like slap that kid in the back of the head and be like, dude, grow up. Um, but even he has a nice little arc where he's like, oh fuck, I was a douchebag. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
uh, so that I really liked how that resolved itself, and it didn't just go like, oh, she goes for the nice guy because he's, you know, just he's one of the main characters. Like
Right.
obviously, I think they're gonna end up together, and I think they'll be better together. But they resolved it in a way that felt organic. Also, it's like, no, she likes Steve, and Steve likes her. Like they genuinely like each other,
Yeah.
and he wants to be better now, and so
Mm-hmm.
he has the opportunity to be better with her. Like that. That's cool. You know,
Yeah.
that's not. It's not just generic storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know what? I take it back. I think Nancy's my favorite character because of how her struggles between trying to fit in to get people's attention and to try to be quote unquote cool, and then her just being a genuinely good person. Like they clash a lot, and then her storyline, I felt like a lot of that one slowly built its tension up more than the kids one. I think obviously not as much as the adult one because they're not literally like infiltrating a secret government organization.
Right.
So that's you know, that's a whole other level. That's just not appropriate for children of any age.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I really liked. Yeah, you know, I think I'm gonna stick with that. Nancy is my favorite character.
I like that. And also, rip Barb.
Oh, Barb, the best character.
Oh, Barb.
Too good, too pure for this world.
Too pure for this world, yes. Oh, she was a sweetheart. I mean,
Yeah.
I read so many articles about people just waxing poetic about the virtues of Barb, and I can't say I disagree with any of them, you know? She was a good soul, and she met a terrible fate, and that fucking sucks. But
yeah, yeah,
and of course having to, like discovering her like sort of encased in this cocoon of death and the upside down was very sad. And I was really hoping we weren't gonna have to see that, but we did.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the last things I want to touch on. I love the creature design. Again, I didn't like it too much when it was in motion for the most part, but I liked the creature design a lot. And the upside down, it's clearly like inspired by heavy H.P. Lovecraft stuff and every Stephen King thing ever. But like, yeah, it was really like nasty and grimy and gross, and like you never want to be there. And I guess the show takes place over the course of like a week or something like that, right?
Yeah, it happens pretty fast.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want to be there for like a second, and this kid spent like a week there, so I can't even imagine what that's gonna do to him when we see him again. You know?
Yeah, seriously. Oh, it's freaky. Yeah, it was really interesting to see what they did with Eleven as well, and sort of evolving her backstory over time and figuring out why she is and what she was capable of doing, and how that led her into contact with the monster was a super cool blend of like fantasy, supernatural, government conspiracy, thriller, horror. Like it all just came together in this really cool and organic way that I totally didn't see coming. Like I didn't even know that the show was going to like have a monster in it. I don't know what I missed from the trailer. I don't even remember, but I thought I was like, oh, it's just a cool throwback thing with like mystery and kids, and then like within the first episode I'm like, oh, this is a whole another beast. But yeah, it blends so many genres and in styles and the work of so many authors and filmmakers that we love, but manages to be its own thing, and I admire the crap out of that. So,
yeah, it's a heck of a show. I'm still I didn't watch a trailer for it. I just dove right in because I was like,
Yeah,
what's the Stranger Things about?
may as well.
Let me see. Let me give my 2 cents on the Twitter. And then I saw it and I was like, ah, shit, it's really good.
Dang.
So, yeah. So, yeah, I am very happy that I watched this show. I hope it sticks around for as long as they have stories to tell because I love it. And I'm pretty much just going to have, like, pictures of Barb, like,
Yes.
on the image for this video.
Mm,
Like, it's just going to
good.
be Barb. Yeah.
It's got to be. She deserves it.
Yeah, in memory of Barb.
Oh.
Emily, where can the people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at M Mighty Sophia. That's EM, the word mighty, SOFIA, which is also my Facebook and also my Twitter and also my Twitch channel. Yeah, I have taken a small hiatus from doing my regularly scheduled TV reviews, but I'm actually in the process of writing a couple that I should be uploading this week. So I'll be doing my own review of Preacher and Stranger Things and an arsenal of other shows. But yeah, that's a lot of what I do, and that's where you can find me.
All right. And you can find me, of course, on the Twitters at Daigle Waffles, on Facebook at The Waffle Press, The Waffle Press on Twitter also. Like, subscribe if you like this review. If you didn't like, subscribe anyways because you might find something you do like. Thanks for watching, everyone. Check out all the playlists down below, yada, yada. We've been professionally unprofessional.